There we go. Yes, we're being recorded now. Joe, it's all yours.
All right. Okay, we good?
You did that other setting earlier. View and then, yeah, the top thing. The present, I think you did.
There we go.
That's what we
All
want
right.
to see. There.
Everybody, welcome to the June 28th, 2020 Solidarity Lowell General Meeting. Thank you for joining us. I am your moderator, Joe Boyle, joining you from Cape Cod. Glad to have everybody here. Yeah, do we want to go? We do have a couple new people here, so why don't we go around doing introductions? I am Joseph Boyle, member of Solidarity Lowell. I live in the Lowell Highlands. My pronouns are he, him.
You got to call on the next person.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We're not in a circle. Chris?
Tells me right for speaking up, right? I'm Chris, downtown Lowell, pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm also a member of the coordinating committee of Solidarity Lowell, and with many other organizations, too many to list right now. I can just go to the next IC. Amy?
Hi, Amy from the Acre. Pronouns are she, her, hers. And
Ryan Hammond, also from the Acre. Pronouns he, him, and his.
Steve?
we're not doing.
Me?
Yes,
Oh,
Steve.
okay. Dee, I live in the Acre. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a member of the coordinating committee too.
And Jonathan?
John Grossman. I live in Pawtucketville. I work for SEIU 509 and I'm an active volunteer with 350 Mass. Let's see, who can I see next here? Steve.
Steve Malagodi. I live in downtown Lowell. I am a new member of the coordinating committee, and I do most of my volunteer work with 350 Mass, the Fight in Lowell node.
Excellent.
How about Rick?
Hi, I'm Rick Golden. I live in Christian Hill in Centerville, and I'm he, him.
Thank you for coming.
Oh.
Let's see. Yeah, sure. Who's next? Lisa?
Lisa Arnold from downtown Lowell, she, her, hers, and I'm running for state representative.
Thank you for coming, Lisa. We have a guest today from the Juneteenth organization, the North Shore Juneteenth organization.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nicole McLean, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm the president of the North Shore Juneteenth Association, and I was invited by Chris. So thank you for inviting me, Chris.
Welcome.
Thank you very much for coming. Let's see, who haven't we got? Mary?
Hi, everybody. Mary Torres with Lowell Alliance. I live in the Lower Highlands. I use she, they pronouns, and I am here to talk about Lowell votes, the census, and the redistricting for the new election system in Lowell. And I also, in my spare time, organize with 350.
Excellent. Steve, have you gone yet?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Is there anybody I missed?
Me?
Luz?
Yeah, I mean, I am drinking, you are not, but you still forgot about me.
I blame Zoom.
I'm Luz Vasudevan, currently unemployed, and I do belong to a lot of organizations, and I like the city of Lowell a lot. I do not live in Lowell, but I have worked in Lowell for 21 years.
Have I missed anybody? All right, well, thank you all for coming. Wait a minute. Okay. So, guidelines for our virtual meetings. We are going to use managed participants in Zoom, so raise your hand if you want to speak, and we have people looking out for that. Dee, our stacker, will be looking out for that and letting me know who's next to call if we have conversations and we have people waiting to speak. Make sure that you unmute when it's your turn to speak, and then even with a group this small, it's helpful if you mute back up after you're done. Use stop video if you need to take a break from sharing your camera, and use start video when you are ready to come back up. When it comes to conversations, we encourage people to step up and step back. We want to hear from everybody. So if there's, if there's a conversation and we haven't heard from everybody, feel free, step up. We want to hear what you have to say. Everybody's important. For the same reason, if you have been contributing in a conversation, make sure you step back and give other people a chance to speak, so that we make sure that we get to everybody. By the way, this meeting is being recorded so that we can take notes afterwards. So, keep all of your crazy stuff on the stop video. Let's see. All right, so who are we for anybody who's new? Solidarity Lowell is a volunteer-based group of community members in and around Lowell, working towards social justice by defending the human rights, dignity, and equality of all persons against all forms of hate and discrimination. With all in-person events on hold, we're hoping to bring, we hope we can bring people together and come up with ways to pursue progressive issues during this time of social distancing. We are a chapter of the group Progressive Massachusetts. If anybody here isn't familiar with them, we urge you to go online and look them up. Fantastic statewide policy organization. If you're interested in learning more about Progressive Mass or in joining one of the Progressive Mass committees, let us know after the meeting. The Solidarity Lowell Coordinating Committee is your team of fearless leaders running the meetings, organizing events, disseminating relevant news, and sharing calls for actions. Solidarity Lowell Coordinating Committee members, if you want to raise your hands so we can see who we are. Me, Steve, Dee. All right. Oh, looks like, all right, okay. So we went around, we introduced ourselves. So now, what is one thing that you have done for fun this month? For me, this is very easy. I'm doing it. This is my family's annual week down the Cape. My family has been doing this since my mom's family since sometime around World War I. My son and daughter are down here, and they are the 5th generation of Baldinis coming down to the north side of Dennis. So this is my favorite thing of the year. Steve, what's one thing you did for fun this month?
Fun. Well, fun is really a big aspect of my life. I'm not really sure what I've done for fun this month. So that's just kind of who I am.
Well, I have seen you have taken a lot of your awesome photographs around Lowell.
Yeah. I'm not sure I define that as fun. I'm just a difficult person in that regard. Ask anybody who knows me.
Dee. Have you had any fun this month?
Well, there are a bunch of us who used to meet every Tuesday at Table of Plenty, and we haven't been able to do that. So we found a park next to the middle school in Chelmsford, and we brought our own supper and a chair, and we socially distanced, but we got together in person.
Nice.
And that was the highlight of my week. Yes.
Next in my screen is Lisa. Lisa, have you had any fun this month?
Fun. Like Steve, fun is relative, I guess. I did go to the, I'm going to get it wrong, the Justice, Equity, and Inclusion Parade yesterday with a bunch of other downtown Lowell, or other residents of Lowell. And that was a nice break from the only other person I ever spend time with being Chuck. So it was good to be around other people in the city that I usually used to see all the time. So.
Excellent. Next on my screen is Mary. Mary, have you had any fun this month?
Yeah, sure. I periodically try to just check in with my siblings who are around the country and do some Zoom hangouts and watch movies together. And yeah, just, I don't know. I also am a little overworked, so I try to always find downtime. Thanks.
Luz, have you had any fun this month?
Oh, my Lanta, it's my turn. I don't only have fun this month. I have fun every single day of my life.
Yes.
And today, LCC closed the office in downtown Lowell. So I had to go and empty my house, my room, my office, because they called me yesterday and said, you need to be out of there by the 30th. I said, are you kidding me? Are you serious? You knew from the beginning of the month and you are just telling me now, but who cares? I went in this morning, I took all my possessions, and then I called a friend and we had a beer at El Potro. And we had so much fun because I have not seen a human being for the past 3 months.
Well, it's too bad it was in such horrible circumstances, but that sounds...
Oh, it was good circumstances, nothing horrible. It was beautiful. And closing LCC was the best thing in my life because now I can retire. I don't have an organization, so I am so happy.
Chris, you are next on my list. What have you done for fun? You are muted.
Why doesn't it? No, it's unmuting. No, I'm unmuted.
Yes, you are.
Fun. Well, I did my first phone bank for Lisa, and that was kind of fun. I actually had one person swear at me. I'm not going to repeat what they said, but it wasn't something that should be recorded here. Usually people are not that rude, but that was one of my first experiences with somebody who really, really, really didn't want to get another phone call. Most everybody else was pretty nice.
Oh, thank you. Amy?
Well, I'm in the middle of closing down my office and I'm not feeling nearly as positive about it as Luz is. But, so it's kind of been draining. But at the risk of stealing what Ryan was probably going to say, we've been watching a lot of movies lately. We've been going through Humphrey Bogart movies, and that's been a lot of fun.
Ooh, nice.
I started reading Kelly Sue DeConnick's Bitch Planet, which is a dystopian feminist science fiction book. It is at alternate points hilarious and horrifying. It tells of a dark future where the whole planet has been taken over by a deeply patriarchal white male evangelical Christian cult, and all the women who they deem not useful or compliant are sent to a prison planet hell and are forced to compete in a blood sport reality TV show.
What is the name of that book so I don't read it? What is the name of the book so I don't read it?
Bitch Planet.
Wow.
Kelly Sue DeConnick is a remarkable writer. I've loved her ever since I found out she was the one who reimagined Captain Marvel to be an ex-military with PTSD and alcoholism who hates war. This appeals to me already. And so when she's really given the reins to do, just let her imagination run wild with Bitch Planet, and she was given an excellent artist to work with, I said, shut up and take my money.
All right, so keep your eyes out when the Nobel Prizes are awarded. Nicole, have you had any fun this month?
Yeah, it's Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth, everybody. But I just came back from East Hampton visiting my sister. She's on, she's like, I guess you would say on orders. She's in the Air Force, and we just, you know, had a little weekend time together. So that was a lot of fun.
Excellent. Jonathan? You are muted.
Sorry about that. An old friend of mine harassed me long enough to get me to go out on a bike ride with him, and it was a great time.
Nice. Rick?
Let's see. I went swimming, which I swim at Hart Pond in Chelmsford, which is a beautiful, clean pond. And I was worried that it was not going to work safely because of the virus, but you can swim right off of the bike path there and not have to be on the beach. So I'm looking forward to getting in really good shape this summer and swimming as much as I can. I love that place.
Excellent. All right, is that all of us? All right, I think that's all of us. Excellent. All right. So, one thing we like to do every month is to celebrate our victories. It's important to keep in mind when we accomplish something, when our friends accomplish something that we can feel good about. So, one victory we've had is that we had more than 80 new Solidarity Lowell members sign up within 24 hours of the Black Lives Matter standouts that we participated in. They don't seem to have attended this particular Zoom meeting. However, it's still positive to get that kind of a reaction. It's people that we can get in touch with, people we can contact for actions. You know, that was a great thing. The Supreme Court barred discrimination against LGBT people at work, which was a very pleasant surprise. And more good news from the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled that the Trump administration's rescission of DACA, of the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, was arbitrary and capricious and must be overturned. So that's a great thing for the Dreamers. Buy some time until hopefully in a few months we can get back on track. Does anybody else have any victories they'd like to share?
I do. Juneteenth is now an official holiday in Massachusetts.
An official Massachusetts holiday. That's excellent. Was the North Shore Juneteenth Network involved in lobbying the state legislature for that?
Well, I like to say that we were, because Brendan Crichton was a part of it, and he didn't know about Juneteenth until he talked to us about it. So we'll say we had something to do with it.
Yes, that is an underrated aspect of activism, when you can get the right person to directly the right person, and it puts an idea out there. I've seen that happen here on the city level, seen it happen on the state level. It's great to hear. Anyone else? All right. Well, next on the agenda. Chris Offerman, do you have any updates from the Immigrants' Rights Subcommittee?
Well, other than what it says on the slide, really, obviously, for obvious reasons, all local actions are still on hold. The last couple of years, we had Welcoming Week, we had our big potluck event in South Carmen. None of that's going to happen this year. But there is a number of statewide actions still going on, lobbying for the Safe Communities Act. I recently attended the virtual town hall on the Safe Communities Act, which was very uplifting, where you could really see how many people around the states are putting pressure on to have this act passed. And I'm sure there will be more to come. The DACA ruling you already mentioned. For those that don't know me that well, immigrant rights is, for rather obvious reasons, probably my thing. I usually follow Mira Coalition because they have the best, most targeted information on that. So I would, anybody who's interested in immigrant rights, that would be one place that I would recommend. Or you can always email me, chris@solidaritylowell.com.
And I'll just add that the RISE Coalition, Refugee and Immigrant Local Coalition, is having its first meeting since COVID started, or since March, on July 10th.
But it'll be a virtual meeting, right?
Yes, of course.
Just checking.
Excellent. Keep sharing that on the Solidarity Lowell page. All right. The Merrimack Valley Interfaith Sanctuary Network. They does a lot of work for the sanctuary network to help asylum seekers, refugees, and asylum seekers. They currently have
Joe, Marissa just joined. She would
Oh, good.
want to speak to this.
I was just
Perfect timing, Marissa.
Flawless.
So, hi everyone. I'm Marissa DuPont. I live in Pawtuckettville. My pronouns are she and her, and I am the volunteer coordinator for the Merrimack Valley Interfaith Sanctuary Network, which has a space in Lowell for a member immigrant person who is who needs housing, who is in a sanctuary situation, or we ended up opening it up to asylum seekers, and we currently have a guest right now. His name is Marius, and he is from Togo. He's a wonderful individual, and he's been working, well, trying to find work here, but unfortunately has been unable to get to find work because his case keeps getting stalled. He has a hearing in September. So unfortunately he can't work until that hearing, but we have agreed to raise about $500 a month to help with his expenses and everything and his living costs. And if you're able to donate, the information is on the screen. Just go to that website and then just make sure you write asylum in the special notes section. He also has a medical issue right now that he needs help with, so he needs an additional $300 for that. So if you're able to donate, we'd really appreciate it, especially if you can make it a recurring donation. I think that's it.
Well, thank you. That was wonderful.
You're welcome.
All right. All right. Anybody who is involved in any other groups, outside groups that have announcements?
I'll add the Lowell Mutual Aid group is having a public forum that'll be broadcast through LTC public access, specifically around housing and risks of homelessness due to lack of, income and risk of eviction and homelessness. That's July 9th. There should be information on Facebook.
July 9th. Excellent.
Mary, did you also want to add what we were talking about yesterday about the need for next week, or has that resolved itself?
Do you mean specifically volunteers required for the pantry, as
Yes.
the two coordinators will be out this week? Yeah, if there are folks or folks who've been wanting to help more this week in particular, the food pantry that the mutual aid group is running could use some help. And I think it's Wednesday and Thursday that they need help with that. And the crisis support Facebook page or group specifically would be a good place to comment if you're interested in helping with that.
Can you put that link in the chat? I know I have it, but maybe not everybody does.
Yes, make sure everybody knows about the llamas. All right. Steve?
Joe, can I just ask Mary a question? Mary, I was asked by a homeless person yesterday or the day before, what is the status of the Elliott Church? The pantry there is closed down, and he was asking me, are they going to reopen, or can you tell me what the situation is?
Yeah, so I don't know any specific information about their feeding program, which is not technically run by the church itself. It's an outside group that has come in and done that. We can try to look into that and contact the pastor there and see. Since they've been running the day shelter for folks, those 3 days a week, they haven't been running it out of there, but some things might change now that things are starting to recover a little bit. We can get more information.
Yeah, I can actually add a little bit to that. I was talking to Pastor Heather yesterday about the hand washing stations, which may or may not show up any minute, any day now. And she said, oh yeah, the St. Patrick's Pantry is going to be opening back up, so we can use it to have people wash their hands while they're waiting for dinner. So there is a plan to have it open up. She didn't say specifically when, but I got the sense that it would be within the next 2 weeks.
There you go.
And Lisa, did you have your hand up earlier?
I did. I attended the Merrimack Valley Project meeting, and I think there's a couple other people on here, Mary did too. So if I get anything wrong, or if you have more details, that'd be great. They are doing a bunch of listening sessions to try to figure out what their priorities are going to be. There's an October meeting for that. We had one session today or yesterday, and we thought it might be a good idea to wait and reconvene the Lowell section after the July 9th forum that the Llama group is putting on, because there's a lot of issues that are parallel. Some of the actionable items that sort of bubbled up to the top for the whole group was around what to do when the schools come back, around racial justice, as well as just the food deserts and food insecurity, as well as housing, were things that sort of came up across the board from all the listening sessions. So after the July 9th forum, I think they want to get back together and come up with and see if anything new came out of that, and so that they have a better sense of what the best priorities are going forward. So I'd say pay attention if you're interested in that. The dates should be coming up, and I can, as the liaison for that group, I can make sure that you have the dates.
All right, thank you. And I see Jonathan with your hand up.
Yes, 350 Mass has a project that we're working on that everybody can help with. We're trying to get 2 questions on the ballot in the fall in various legislative districts, state representative districts, especially leadership districts, like that of Tom Golden, for example. And the 2 questions would be advisory questions that would instruct the representative to take a certain position. They don't carry any legal weight, but they do send a political.
Whoop, just cut out.
Oh, what happened? I got muted again. I'll put them in the chat. The one question is a transparency question. It speaks in favor of requiring legislators to vote when they vote on bills in committee to make the votes public. Right now, they don't have to make those votes in committee public, so they can tell you they support such and such, but you'll never know how they voted in committee. And votes in committee are very important, as you know. The second question speaks in favor of moving to 100% renewable energy within the next 2 decades and making some significant progress in the first 5 years, which is what, or close to what anyway, what the science requires us to do if we want to head off the worst impacts of climate change. Neither of those things are going to pass without significant pressure from below, and this ballot question initiative is a way to get pressure from below, giving people a chance to vote in November in favor of these positions. We're hoping to get it on the ballot in a number of leadership districts, including Tom Golden's. To get it there, we need 200 signatures from the district. If you look on the chat, the website at the bottom is where you can go to sign the petition. We got the permission to get electronic signatures, since it's harder to collect handwritten signatures these days, although we are doing it, and now that things have opened up more, we're able to actually collect them at supermarkets. But if you have any friends or other people that listen to you who would sign this petition, please send them this link. That website also has information about the questions. It's not just Tom's district, but other leadership districts across the state, and wherever they live, they could sign it. And if we get enough signatures, we might try to put it on the ballot there. The deadline is next week, so if you have a circle you can forward this to, please do so. And if you haven't signed it, I urge you to sign it. Thank you.
I would add that that's in the rapid response action list this week too, the link.
Yes, thank you. It has been there, and it's been posted in various Facebook pages, Solidarity Lowell's, including Solidarity Lowell's, and we all appreciate that. But you can get it around, and if you want to help us get signatures, contact me on Facebook or any way that you would like to, or Steve. One of Solidarity Lowell's regular attendees, Wynn, is out getting signatures right now. That's why she's not here.
Steve, did you have your hand up?
Well, I was just going to say, if anybody on this call hasn't signed it, you can do that now. Just follow the link, and I mean, I just want to encourage everybody to sign these petitions, particularly if you're in the 16th district, if you're in Tom Golden's district. It's really quite an important thing that we've committed to getting on the ballot and winning in November. So if you haven't done it, please do. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Oh, Rick?
Yep. I just want to say that I signed it last night, and I've never done like an online signature thing, and it was really easy. I was thinking, oh, I don't want to mess with this. I don't want to have to join, you know, get a password and all that, but it was really easy. So now I know that for future questions.
Excellent.
Cool.
Do you have to live in the district to sign it, or can I sign it?
You can sign it. If I could answer that, you can sign it you can sign it with respect to your district. And if enough people do, and this is going on all over the state, we're just kind of talking Lowell talk here because that's where we are, but it's going on all over the state. And so there may be, if we get enough signatures in your district, there might be a campaign there in the fall. There are people actively circulating it on the North Shore, I know, if that's where you are from.
And this is the just recent one in the chat, the
Yes.
maclimatedemocracy.org.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Our good friend
Yeah,
from Progressive Mass Solidarity, Progressive Mass, Jonathan Cohen, is always pointing out instances of state legislatures voting against the amendments that they sponsored themselves, but because of the lack of transparency, they get away with still using their sponsorship of that in their mailers and whatnot. So this would be a great thing. Steve, did you have more?
Just a little bit. Nicole, you're on the North Shore, right?
Yes, I'm in Lynn.
So I'm pretty sure that our 350 node, our North Shore node, is organizing this in your area. So if we know how to get in touch with you, we can hook you up there with our local people in the North Shore.
Okay, thank you.
If you're
I'll
interested.
put my email in the chat.
Great.
Great. All right. Anyone else?
If I could
Okay,
just
then.
go real quick,
Yes.
I just wanted, since Solidarity Lowell has endorsed Lisa Arnold, I wanted to let folks know that we're doing a weekly phone bank on Thursdays from 6 to 9 to reach out to voters to find out who they'll be voting for in the 17th Middlesex. You don't have to be in Lowell. You don't have to be in Massachusetts. As far as I know, you don't even have to be in the United States to join the phone bank, as long as you can do it from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. And we do a training, so that it starts with the training, and then we hop right in and make phone calls. So if you're interested, just email me if you have my email address, or volunteer@lisaforstaterep.com, and I'll put that in the chat too.
Thank you. Okay, not seeing any other hands. So moving along, from Lowell Votes, we have Mary Torres.
Okay, everybody. So I'm definitely going to be speaking to get out the vote type, updates. But since a lot of the partners are also involved with the Complete Count Committee for the census, I wanted to just give you an update about what's happening with that, and then also talk about the redistricting for the new election system for greater equity and representation at the local level. I'm so sorry that I'm backlit. I just reconfigured my setup, so I'm still getting used to it, but I'm mostly going to be sharing my screen, and I'm going to share a bunch of links in the chat. So if you have any questions or need something, I'll try to find it. And if I don't have the answers, we have a lot of collective wisdom on this call. So if we can't come up with the answers tonight, I'll jot it down and try to get that information to you as soon as possible. So I'm just going to share my screen. Can the host please give me access?
Bam. All right.
To share this. Perfect. Okay, thank you so much. So I'm going to start with the census. All right. So can everyone see the Rome census GIS map here with Lowell? So this shows, this is accessible at the GIS portal, and you can click on it by tract, and the lighter the color, the higher the response rate. The darker the color, the lower the response rate. So the Citywide Complete Count Committee is currently targeting the Acre and Lower Highlands, those neighborhoods especially, because the response rates are still pretty low compared to the city and the state overall. The state, I think, is in the 60s, the city is in the 50s. It is improving little by little. We have a lot of partners working to do weekly or bi-weekly phone banking to reach folks in multiple languages, and I'll give a shout out to Luz and others who might be involved with that. MIRA at the statewide level, which is Massachusetts Immigrant and Refugee Advocacy Coalition, they're also doing regular phone banking. So there are a lot, and I could put this in the chat, but there's a lot of updates obviously due to COVID. The census enumerators are going to be working through September, and the entire process is going to end in October now. So if that, I just wanted to share that in case that's new information for anybody. The census staffers in this area are open to doing kind of questionnaire assistance support over the phone or over Zoom or anything that would be helpful to families either who may not have internet access, who might speak other languages, which the census staff both have, and we have community partners that have language access as well. And we just, we ask everyone to like the page, which is Lowell Counts, and if possible, or anyone individually would be interested in participating, we're doing Census Tuesdays, so sharing content about the census every Tuesday. Okay, are there any questions about the census updates before I move on to the Lowell vote stuff?
Okay, go right ahead.
Great. Okay, so for those who Lowell Votes is new to, it's kind of a coalition of local community partners and residents to help increase education and voter turnout in the city. The city of Lowell itself often has struggled to get adequate information out about who's running and what is on the ballot. So we've tried, especially in recent years, to get this election guide out with all the candidates, with the ballot questions, and kind of where the candidates stand, especially on issues that residents are interested in hearing about. So we have this survey, which I can put in the chat, and please do help us get, I can't access, well, so the way this works is that, and some of you I'm sure have filled this out in prior years, folks share with us which are the most important issue areas to them. They ask questions, and then we take that information and create something that we can ask to each of the candidates. Of course, you know, this is not a local election year, but it's still important to get local feedback on what's important to folks and get those ballot questions on there. The way we fund the printing of this tends to be community partners pitching in a couple $100s to get copies printed. we do also get them translated into Spanish, and we try for Khmer as well. We also have these, you know, when it is a local election year of who's running, because again, the city doesn't put out anything that helps residents learn about who, what, you know, what people look like and what their names are and that kind of stuff. So in the next couple of years, we're hoping that we'll increase our fundraising, just because this work doesn't have its own fundraising and budget attached to it. It comes out of our community partners' budgets strictly, and you know, we're all doing a lot of different kind of work. So I just wanted to let folks know you can donate on the lowellvotes.org page. There's also a shop. So if folks want to take a look at that, that's good. This year, because voter registration, which we usually do tabling, public events, that kind of stuff, is a lot harder. So I just wanted to let folks know people can register to vote online. And I know that Progressive Mass does put out a lot of good information, and there's other information available on how the legislature is trying or considering to make the election more accessible this year with voting by mail. So our next upcoming Lowell Votes meeting is July 7th, and it's Tuesday afternoon. We've been trying to rotate the times between like 4:30 and 6 or 6:30, so that residents can join if they're, you know, otherwise working and would like to join. And that information is usually on our Facebook page, or you can get on our Google group for more updates about that. And again, the major partners tend to be Coalition for a Better Acre, Lowell Alliance, Cambodian Mutual Assistance Association, and LCCE, Latinx Community Center for Empowerment, is getting, you know, has been involved, and we hope to sustain involvement from them as well, in addition to residents. Do you guys have any questions about the Lowell Votes updates? This meeting, let me check real quick. 4 o'clock, it looks like. So 4 on the 7th. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mary.
Yeah. Do you mind if I move forward on the redistricting for the new election system?
How are we doing on time? I think that should be fine.
Okay, thank you so much. We do have some good news that the local Theodore Edson Parker Foundation has funded for 2 years CMAA, that's Cambodian Mutual Assistance Association, Lowell Alliance, and LCCE, Latinx Community Center for Empowerment, to do more education and get resident input on the drawing of the new districts. So for those that this is new information for, there was a voting rights lawsuit to redefine the election system, coming from an at-large system to have either some kind of mixed, either all districts or a hybrid system. And we ended up with a hybrid system where there will be 8 districts and 3 at-large counselors, and this will affect the school committee as well. Historically and right now, the city council has been 97% white-led, and the school committee 99% white-led. And given the history of the city, that's, I mean, a lot of European immigrant families coming up, but as the city becomes more minority majority with Cambodians, Southeast Asian, Latinx from many places, and lots of African communities as well, it has proven to, and this was the suit, what the suit was about, and at the federal level as well, that these at-large systems tend to dilute minority voters' ability to elect people from their neighborhoods and get representation at the local level. So this is great, and we're working on a couple of opportunities, both like media in multiple languages, like commercials about, one, how to use this tool, which you're seeing now, which is the districtr.org/Lowell, tool so that people can actually create their own districts and see what it would look like if the district lines were distributed in a certain way. And our hope is that if people get familiar with this, they'll see that there needs to be even distribution, demographically speaking. And then the suit calls for at least 2 opportunity districts of minority majority voters in that district. But as we all know, people have, particular, ties to what they may see as what their neighborhood is. And this redistricting process is likely to split up where neighborhoods fall. So like Pawtuckaville is huge. It's gonna have to be split up most likely, or portions of it, or the acre will have to be combined into another section for the districts to maintain that. So we're hoping to have a unity map that we can present to the city council and the consultant that the city and the plaintiffs will be working with. That consultant will be the one who will determine the final map, and because the census is at this later stage, we're most likely going to be using old census data for the first map potentially. So again, another reason why a complete count with the census is as important as ever, and at the local level especially. So there will be a lot more information coming out hopefully soon. We have our partners meeting with the city this week to give us an updated sense about what their timeline is for the consultant. And then we'll be underway with a lot of this work. Any questions?
So that sounds like we're going to be having map fights 2 years in a row for the first redistricting and then for the second redistricting, right? And happening, only one election apart.
Well, the hope is that the unity map, or the map that the consultant draws up, will be quite close to what will be used in the end. But it's true, if we get our census data back and it's pretty different, we will have to undergo a little bit of tweaking of all of the district lines, and it will cause a lot of confusion for residents in the local election. The last point I'll just make really clear is that this change to a new election system is only really effective if we support local upcoming candidates, especially minority candidates, to run at the local level. And that might be one thing in the future that Solidarity Lowell looks into supporting in the neighborhoods to help, encourage, get the word out, and help link them up to trainings and supports and resources to help them run in the neighborhoods.
Excellent. John, do you have a question?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a question, if Mary feels comfortable answering it, or maybe somebody else might feel more comfortable answering it, but what do we see as the political lines that might get drawn as we get closer to the process of actually voting on, or the city council voting on a new map? What should we be looking for here in terms of the values that Solidarity Lowell has? What are the politics, if somebody who's knowledgeable would feel comfortable commenting? I recognize, Mary, the different groups you work for, you might not feel comfortable commenting.
I'd love to hear what other people think about that. And, if we want to have a little bit of a discussion, I think it's always helpful and worth doing power analysis. So I have no problem talking about that.
A thought. I have looked at maps before. When the question of doing districts originally came up, and I came to the conclusion that if you did 7 districts, you could divide the city up very neatly and not have to do any river crossings. But because it's 8. It came out to a system with 8 districts. there's going to have to be at least one river crossing. And depending on where that happens, that could end up dividing up significant communities of interest or uniting particular communities of interest. And in my opinion, the best place to do the river crossing is to have a Rourke Bridge district, which unites some or all of far western Pawtucketville with some of the most suburban outside areas of the Highlands, which are the two of the wealthiest and two of the least diverse sections of the city. But that is likely to be a fight. And there's, and we're
pretty diverse over here.
Over here in, yeah, there's a small area. There's a part in Middlesex Village, and there's a part out on Pawtucket Boulevard, the condo developments that has some diversity too.
That's true.
Right. But for the most part, suburban Pawtucketville and the suburban part of the Highlands are a couple of the least diverse sections of the city.
So we'll certainly have lots of opportunities, I hope. You know, before COVID happened, it looked like the city was going to give us 2 months to make this all happen. And now we have a little bit more time. So I'm hopeful there will be many Zoom sessions with interpretation and opportunities for people to really talk about, okay, look, like if the district line was here, that would mean I'm cut off technically from my, you know, local business sector that I usually frequent. So we need to rethink that, or that kind of feedback from residents. So definitely look out for anything from either Lowell Alliance, Cambodia Mutual Association, or LCC on those opportunities.
Yep. Something else I discovered that's going to be a big fight is that Belvedere, which anyone who's not from Lowell wouldn't be familiar with, is the highest turnout section of the district, section of the city. And the city, which was long the most electorally powerful section of the city, is not by itself big enough to be an entire district, which means that if there is a Belvedere district, it's going to be a Belvedere and something else or part of something else district. And that part of something else, in terms of their electoral power, will get completely subsumed to Belvedere. And the options are to go across the river to part of Christian Hill, to go south into South Lowell, or to go west into and through downtown, Acre, or back central, which are three of the most, particularly diverse sections of the city. And so from the points of view of the values of this organization, I think we very much have an interest in not seeing Upper Belvedere grab and subsume and wipe out the electoral power of the central city. We are going to want to see it either go north or to go south. And that's liable to be a fight.
Yeah, so I would even recommend, what software is this? Okay, so great question. So this was created in part specifically for Lowell, but by a researcher on gerrymandering at Tufts, who has looked at a lot of equity issues in voting for a long time. And they actually created this, and we're doing an assessment on whether this option, there were actually 6 total options in the original lawsuit, and it came down to 2 for a ballot vote between this and a ranked choice voting option. And they actually thought that the ranked choice voting option might give a better outcome in terms of minority representation than this would, but this is what the city went with. And there's a lot of reasons why this can certainly also be effective for minority representation, but it's going to take a while, like we've seen in Springfield, which took about 10 or 12 years before they achieved, through the same process, same lawsuit with the same supporting organization, the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, So it might take some time, and it'll be on all of our community partners and grassroots organizations to support residents who are, seen as leaders in their communities to consider running.
Okay, thank you very much. Nicole, did you have a screen to share? Next item on our agenda after Mary is Juneteenth.
Yes, I do have to share my screen. I have 2 videos that I want to show.
Okay, you are clear now? Okay.
This video is going to teach us a little bit about what Juneteenth is and more about the holiday, just in case this is something new for some of the people that are in this group. So I hope that you can hear the video. Are you able to hear it?
Nicole, there's actually a great way to integrate sound. If you stop the stream and then when you open it again, look on the bottom, it'll say integrate for sound and for video, and just click those.
Okay.
And it should be all set from there.
Oh, I see it. Share computer sound, gotcha.
The history books have glorified Abraham Lincoln and the Emancipation Proclamation for freeing slaves. But if we're being real, it only applied to slaves who lived near Union lines, where they could flee his or her plantation or take advantage of opportunities in the North. Around 500,000 Black people managed to do this. These Black people freed themselves. Juneteenth, or June 19th, is a powerful moment in Black history, dating back to June 19, 1865, the day Union soldiers led by Major General Gordon Granger went into Galveston, Texas, with news that the Civil War was over and Texas's 250,000 slaves were now officially free. Yes! 1865, that's a whole 2.5 years after Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. In those 2 years, Black people's newfound freedom was rejected by white people. But General Granger bossed up and issued an order to the people of Texas, proclaiming all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves. And the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. And Juneteenth was born. Our Independence Day, our July 4th. Of course, it wasn't black and white like that. We weren't free. They just announced it. This new freedom sparked a violent backlash from white people. Surprise! Former Confederate soldiers, still in uniform and with guns, intimidated Black people, continuing a new form of slavery. They did this by murdering, lynching, and harassing the freed slaves. Hashtag Reconstruction era. But we are a resilient people. None of their intimidation tactics could stop our ancestors from accepting and celebrating their freedom. And they celebrated defiantly because you know white people were hating. The first public Juneteenth event took place in 1866. Former slaves read the Emancipation Proclamation, something pretty gangster to do in the 1860s South. They also sang spirituals and played games. The freed men and women of Texas took their celebrations wherever they went. Los Angeles, Oakland, Seattle, Chicago, Virginia, you name it. By the 20th century, the Jim Crow laws were in full effect. Freedom started to feel like a foreign concept, and Juneteenth celebrations didn't happen as often. But the fight to freedom had to continue. The Poor People's March of 1968 brought new life into the holiday. In 1980, Texas recognized it as a state holiday. And in 1997, Congress recognized June 19th as Juneteenth Independence Day. It's been over 150 years since the first Juneteenth. Isn't it time Juneteenth became a national holiday? It could be the blackest holiday ever. Barbecues, music, dancing, a celebration of being free Black men and women. June 19th is not just about freedom, but the fight of our ancestors, the determination, and the consideration that one day their children, their children's children, and their children's children's children would be free.
Okay, so that was about Juneteenth. This next video is going to educate you about the Black National Anthem.
PVP, polyethylene glycol, hooves, animal skin, sheep's wool, parabens, artificial colorants, talc.
There's been a lot of talk about the national anthem lately, for better or for worse. But for African Americans, there's a national anthem that goes way back and tells our American story of struggle, triumph, and freedom.
It's a part of me, it's a part of history.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring.
It's called Lift Every Voice and Sing.
I heard it actually going to my grandma's church. I went to Spelman, so they were singing before sporting events.
Wasn't it an old slave song?
Lift Every Voice and Sing actually started as a poem. It was first recited in the year 1900 by 500 school children at the all-black Stanton School in Jacksonville, Florida, as a tribute to President Abraham Lincoln's birthday. The creator of Lift Every Voice and Sing was James Weldon Johnson, a civil rights activist, lawyer, and school principal, who also wrote the poem to introduce Booker T. Washington, who was visiting his school. Johnson's brother, John Rosamond Johnson, put the poem to music, and it officially became a song. Once the NAACP adopted Lift Every Voice and Sing as its official Negro national anthem, the song took on a life of its own. A remake of Lift Every Voice and Sing was done in the 1990s by Melba Moore with fellow R&B artists like Stevie Wonder, Anita Baker, Dionne Warwick, and Bobby Brown.
Let our rejoicing rise.
It was even recited during President Barack Obama's first presidential inauguration. Wherever you stand on what to actually call Lift Every Voice and Sing, chances are you fall into the bucket of people who just remember the first stanza.
Lift every voice and sing to where it. Lift every voice and sing till our.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise.
High as the listening skies.
As it resounds the rolling sea.
The present has brought us, facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Beyond the politics around Lift Every Voice and Sing, the song itself is powerful in that it talks about staying hopeful, fighting injustice, and knowing the struggle our ancestors endured.
It's a part of something that gave people hope and, striving for excellence and kind of sense of community.
Just knowing that you have a, what do you want to call that, a place, knowing that you're an individual, you're a citizen, you are here. You are here, and there's power in that.
So, does anybody have any questions about the holiday or the song?
The song is way better than ours.
That's not all of it. There's a second stanza, but that's the part that most African Americans remember.
That's a low bar, though, Mary.
Yeah.
Is there anybody that didn't know about the Juneteenth holiday? Everybody here knew about it?
This year we did. Last year I wasn't sure if I did already, but definitely this year.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I did not know about the Black National Anthem.
Oh, okay.
Yep, learned a lot today. I was wondering if you knew that there was a Lowell connection to emancipation.
No, I did not know what's going on in Lowell.
Okay, General Benjamin Butler, who issued the contraband order at Fortress Monroe, is from Lowell.
Oh, wow.
Yep. I like to.
I think he's in one of the paintings, isn't he? In Boston. Is that the guy that's in one of the paintings? He might be. I think that name sounds familiar.
I am not sure, but I like to promote him and promote that story about Fortress Monroe because it's a story about self-emancipation and about a Union figure who, rather than, like the Lincoln story, granting freedom with his power and giving it to grateful enslaved people. It's a story about using his power to empower, Butler using his power to empower enslaved people to liberate themselves.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, I'm going to have to look him up. Thank you for that. I also heard about Frederick Douglass's connection to Lowell, which I didn't know about. I learned that from Jacqueline.
Ooh.
Yeah, I had no idea he stayed in Lowell. I knew about his connection to Lynn and that he stayed in Lynn for a couple of years, but I had no idea he also was in Lowell for a little while.
Yeah.
Douglas
And Lowell was on the Underground Railroad also.
Yes.
Awesome.
That I also knew.
Douglas was here a lot. He quite often spoke at the Machinists Hall, which is like a couple of blocks from me. And so it's just like amazing to walk by that building. And not too long ago, I started volunteering for the diaper bank, which happens to be in that building. So I got to walk around there inside that building and say hello to Frederick.
I know, isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's just like,
yeah, I think it's amazing to be able to walk where historical people have already, you know what I mean, have made their mark is amazing, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's my contribution to the meeting. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
So
That was very informative. Thank you very much.
Nicole, I would say come to Lowell for like a day, and there's maybe we can arrange for a history tour, because it's just.
Oh, that would be awesome. I definitely would come to Lowell. Actually, if you guys would like to have a flag raising in Lowell next year, we could bring the Juneteenth flag and maybe we can raise it.
Ooh,
yes. Definitely.
Yeah. And we can sing the Black National Anthem and all that. Yeah.
Cool.
We did one in Salem this year, so we can do one in Lowell too.
Excellent.
Yeah. So that'll be something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and hopefully we can have you here in person and we can have a real flag raising and.
There you go, right?
Yeah.
It'd be amazing.
It's something I'll look forward to.
Yeah.
Some folks at the local AME church, which I discovered just in the last couple of weeks over the Juneteenth holiday, because they just did their first Juneteenth celebration. So that was kind of interesting too. So there is a group of people here who are now beginning to celebrating
to
Juneteenth.
start celebrating the holiday. That's awesome.
Yeah, they did a great diagram of the history that they posted up, that they displayed at the in the park where they had their picnic. It was really, I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, there was Jacqueline, right? Jacqueline who put me in touch with Nicole.
Yes.
Yeah, oh,
So
perfect.
it all goes in circles.
So Jacqueline did the June celebration.
Was that Jeff?
Yes, that's awesome. All right. Well, yeah, I would love to connect with you guys more and find out more about what's going on in Lowell.
Yes.
I mean, those two questions I'm really interested in. I signed the petition and everything already since I could. So, and I shared it on my Facebook page too, so other people can sign it as well.
Any month you want to come in here, we'll be having meetings. Well, it'll come up on Joe's screen in a moment, but with any luck, we'll be having meetings throughout the summer. So, and they're always posted on the page and in the group. And I'll put you on the reminder list. So anytime you want to hang out with us, please do.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you guys for having me.
And I'm not sure if they're
Great
where
having you.
you are on the North Shore, but look for see if there's a local solidarity, local progressive mass organization up there. That's who we're affiliated with.
Okay, Progressive Mass, you say?
Progressive Massachusetts. That's right.
All right, gotcha. All right, guys. Nice meeting everybody. I'm sure I'll be
Nice
back.
meeting you.
Okay, great seeing you. Thank you for coming.
Yep. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
All right. Uh-oh. Okay. So Nicole. All right. Boy, that was great. All right. Did anybody have anything else that any other business before we start talking planning for the future? All right, we wanted to get field people out on, do we want to take the summer off or meet? Should we have a virtual cookout? What do people think?
I don't like virtual cookouts.
I like
real
virtual cookout. Yes.
Virtual cookout sounds great. Jonathan?
I'm in favor of meeting. It's easy enough to, it's easier to do it virtually than in person. And I think there's so much going on that checking in with each other and hearing the latest news is important to do. So that would be my reason for continuing meeting over the summer.
I agree. There's a lot going on, and the current administration is hurrying to do their nastiest before they get booted out. And there's a lot of stuff to do to help make sure they get booted out. So it would be good to keep in touch.
I also agree, especially to support our endorsed candidate, Lisa Arnold, for 17th Middlesex representative.
What's the results of the poll so far? Not much, or do we not know?
We haven't gotten a lot of responses, but they've all been yes to July and to August.
Okay, well, there you go. It's probably all of us on this call, right?
Yep.
Pretty much.
Maybe.
I mean, the cost of having a meeting when you have a small turnout is not as great when you're doing it virtually.
Yeah.
And so I think we should keep the dates. Somebody in the city council will probably do something really aggravating. We'll need to talk about it.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that while Nicole was still on, but I can just, which was just in the chat, I can just see a certain city council member come in their local costume to the flag raising. I was getting this image. I was like, oh no, please.
Yeah. Oh boy.
You know it'll happen.
Red, green, and black. Yes.
Well, yeah, we all know who we're talking about, so no names need to be mentioned.
Right.
I just got that image as that topic came up, and it's like, ah.
Hey, so not that we can claim them as wins, but a couple of good things that happened recently was that in our city council, they voted to create a citizens advisory committee to advise the police. And they passed a motion to bring in an outside consultant to do a personnel and hiring audit, examining the diversity of the city's workforce and how to add some. And those both passed the council, and apparently they're actually what passed actually directed them to look at funding sources, including outside funding sources, to actually have a budget to do a real HR audit. So those are a couple of positive things that came out of the last couple of meetings since all the action began.
John, did you have something?
Yeah. Can someone explain why there's no defund the police movement here that I've noticed?
I can speak to that. The Lowell Mutual Aid Group is working on checking in with all our local Black-led community partners, and we're reviewing the city's budget and the police budget, and we'll probably either call a meeting or see if there are opportunities to dig more deeply into that, because the majority of the most active mutual aid group members have agreed to work on that.
Right. I can report that my union took a very progressive position on that issue, which I was impressed with. And we have a lot of members in Lowell.
Cool.
That's something I want to learn about more. That it came up on the call on the.
The only thing that I'll add to that, and I see Steve also, is just from my own personal experience working with like social workers and mental health practitioners and the shelter, is figuring out how best to work with the city and the police to, whether it's down funding or defunding, what that looks like, and how to actually make sure people are still getting their service needs met in an appropriate way, without also further putting the burden on people that are already extremely overworked and burdened in this community.
Steve, you have your hand up?
Yeah, Mary, is it just that people don't want to use that expression, defund the police? I mean, I watched that listening session or whatever it was, and the words never came up. And as far as I could tell, even the idea of diverting funds from police enforcement to social needs didn't come up. Is it that just people don't want to use that word, or is it the whole idea of diverting funds away from armed patrols to social services is just off the table?
I mean, I can't speak to that. I think people are always, oftentimes, just very hesitant on how they speak to things in front of city officials. And I also think people want to look to Black community leaders first around this, and until those folks kind of identify what steps they want to take, the community will be in solidarity with that. But I don't know that a lot of people feel like it's their I don't know. But it'll keep coming up, that's for sure. And if you want to look at the budget, we're in the process of preparing it in a way that people can really dig into police versus, other social and education and things. So that should be available soon also.
It sounds like a very worthwhile thing, Mary. The budget documents can be very difficult to dig through and understand, and even once you get a raw number on police spending, well, is that a lot? How does that compare? So I think that providing information in a useful manner like that will be a huge contribution. Lisa has her hand up.
Yeah. Yep, I do. I was wondering if in that, you're taking a look at the budget, it sounds like you are doing this, looking at what the types of calls that historically we have gotten, because that's, a clear piece of data that's important for looking at how you allocate funds.
Lisa, you're on the mutual aid Slack, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so feel free to get on there, and there's a defund police channel, and if you want to bring that up,
okay.
we can, if there are folks that want to help the group with this, you're welcome to jump on.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, Joe.
Steve?
Yeah, just one more thing. I've had, I think now, 3 people who went to that listening session tell me that it was completely intimidating. The whole setup, that they were intimidated start to finish. That's, to have that many people in my small circle who went to that to say that whole thing went really wrong.
Joe, you were there. What did you think?
I'll tell you, my voice was quavering. I'm not a shy person. I'm not easily intimidated, but I got up to speak and I found myself with my voice quavering talking to these people. I even talked to these people. So yes, I'm not even remotely surprised to hear that, Steve. The way it worked, because of the COVID situation and everything, is everybody waited outside, and then you were invited to come in through a door, and near the door there was a microphone, and then all of these city officials up to and including state representatives and chief of police and everybody was in a big horseshoe all the way around the room. And yeah, I can imagine people being intimidated. It was a little bit like that scene in the Harry Potter movie where they're at the Ministry of Magic deciding in front of a tribunal whether or not to take away to send the witch to Azkaban. Just everybody around, and then the one person. Yeah, it's a fairly intimidating setup.
I would recommend or encourage anyone who wants to give feedback about that process to email or message the city councilors about that, or the city manager's office, and let them know that obviously these conversations need to keep happening, and to really prioritize inclusion and feelings of safety in the processes themselves, because it was only promoted online through their Facebook page, maybe went out in the sun. But if you want to get stuff to the residents, you need to put the information in the neighborhoods, in public locations for people to see it.
Yes, I know of a lot of people who first heard of it in Mayor Leahy's letter that he sent out and posted the day before, and by that time it was too late to sign up.
Yeah.
Can't stop wondering if that was somewhat by design, that they were not very communicative, or if this is just their standard operating procedure that they don't communicate.
The standard. It tends to be, they're little by little by little by little trying to do a little better, but it is almost always an afterthought, if a thought at all.
Do they have a communications director in City Hall?
If anyone wants to contact him, his name is Phil Jeffrey. His information should be on the website. And he's doing all the infographics and messaging on the Facebook page. But he's also a partial assistant to the city manager, so it's not his sole role.
Yeah.
That would be a good demand for the Alliance and other groups that, about how the city communicates generally.
They don't.
Well, that's what I mean. You know, if we're making demands, it's kind of a minimalist demand, but it's pretty important. They don't do it. And anyway, just a thought.
They weren't doing it during COVID, during the height of the COVID. So I don't know if that wasn't enough to trigger better communication. Nothing will.
The city's just never been good at this.
Could we go to the all video screen just for a minute and leave the shared screen?
Yeah, better.
I would love to just share an idea that I've had over the past like year or so, and I was gonna start working on a proposal for this before COVID started, and I think could be really useful, especially for the redistricting, but would require city to put some money behind it probably, or staffing. But I think that because there's very little physical locations for bulletin boards or public information to be posted in the neighborhoods, I would love to see pop-up neighborhood civic sites that city officials could meet the residents there, closer to where people are. And there can be bulletin boards that are both, you know, city and nonprofit and resident postings, and just have it be, you know, some, you know, partnership managed could be through the city and nonprofits, but doing outreach in the city is very difficult if you are one person or 3 people or 5 people to do citywide communications, and it absolutely needs to be a priority, including with language justice as a central point. So if Solidarity Lowell wants to think about, you know, how going forward can residents really feel like they're included in the democratic process, to think about what are the mechanisms that people get access to information and can engage with it. Thank you.
That's the point. When I was on the planning board, we made applicants start hanging up signs with their site plans and the notice of when the meetings were, and put up a sign on the site where they wanted to do their project. And that turned out to be something that got a lot of people's attention and got us a lot more comments and stuff from the neighborhood. So the idea of a physical location where there are to post notices where everybody knows it's going to be, it sounds like I think that it has a lot of potential. I think that could be very useful in the city.
I just posted in the chat that one of the things that we had been working on prior to COVID was getting little free libraries going, with the secondary function being to have a bulletin board, a place where people could post notices and information about neighborhood meetings and our meetings, of course, and any other meetings that are going on. But unfortunately, we were having a lot of trouble finding locations, since if we are doing this on our own, you know, we don't have any sort of funding, so we can't get like permits or whatever. So we were hoping to find private locations on private property. And we found a couple locations, but unfortunately, it wasn't a situation where a lot of folks were able to get those, you know, to either be stewards or to get locations. So it's kind of on hold until after COVID.
Maybe we should just enlist the services of local taggers.
Yeah.
You're laughing, but you know.
No, I like it.
You know, they know how to spread a message around a neighborhood.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Idea.
You know, but something's, you know, something, as Mary said, something really, there's a real need out there. 350, I mean, we ran into this headlong when we were trying to get the word out about the community choice aggregation energy contract. It was so frustrating to pass such a great progressive thing through the council and then have nobody know about it, or to have it was just so frustrating not being able to reach people to tell them how to take advantage of it. So one of the things that we'd like to know from the energy manager is how many people actually signed up for this. We don't know. There was no real near outreach or publicity about it from the city whatsoever. So it's a tremendous need, especially since there's no local independent paper, like a free weekly. It's really hard.
As far as I can tell, most people under the age of 40 communicate primarily through videos. So maybe the city should try to get some kind of video channel and somebody with some cultural awareness to moderate it.
Taggers, let's get the taggers.
I'm down with the taggers too. That's a great idea. But I just point out that we all think about communication, at least I do. I think about it in kind of old school ways, and people are just on video all the time. That's where they at. That's where they get their information. They don't even know their way around.
I mean, I know Phil, he was the campaign manager for Vesna when Vesna ran for city council, and he's a smart kid. He knows what he's doing. So my imagination is that it's more a limitation in terms of budget, because I know Phil can put together a video. I mean, anybody can. It's not hard. I mean, I've been doing it for Lisa's campaign, and I am not a video person. But I mean, it's something that there needs to be budget, there needs to be funding, there needs to be motivation. I mean, I used to do marketing as a job. I mean, and it's a full-time job just to send out, 1 or 2 emails a week and, put out a mailer. It's not something where if they're not putting the effort into it, it's not going to happen. And there needs to be money behind it. And if Phil is also serving as Eileen's assistant, I mean, I can tell you right now, it's a time issue for him.
Of course, I think we recognize that, and it is a matter of like the community actually being a part of the budgeting process, and advocating for what needs to be reflected in the budget from our values and from our needs in this community. So maybe as we're reviewing the budget with the police, we can look at this, and see the fact that there's no, that I can see, budget for language equity.
That's whacked. That's just totally.
And that they have been going to community partners oftentimes with no compensation at the last minute for public events, and have only just started to call them in to help them with public announcements, or occasionally they, will pay. But oftentimes, from my experience at least, when we have public meetings, where they plan a public meeting, they let CMAA know or CBA know a couple days in advance or the day before, and ask them, well, will you do this? So
for free, they expect it for free.
Oftentimes, yeah.
That's preposterous. I mean, especially in this day and age with the new discussions that we're having around Black Lives Matter and everything. I mean, one of the biggest things they're talking about is stop expecting Black people to do work, to do any sort of labor or emotional labor for free. And it's just obvious to me that so many of the people in our government, our local government, are just not paying attention to that movement and not doing the work and not trying to make any sort of effort. I mean, just the fact that our mayor was like, oh, I don't think it's a problem with our Lowell police. I mean, he's not paying attention.
Nope.
Hasn't been paying attention apparently for however many years he's been alive. I mean, I was just appalled at the concluding statements that they all made, except for George, at the end of that session. It was appalling to me.
I would point out that in all the cities around, or at least a lot of the cities around Massachusetts, where there have been votes on defunding police issues, including cities with major populations of people of color, major progressive activists, they lost. they lost in Worcester, they lost in Boston, and they lost in Lawrence. So the fact is, the white establishment is still the white establishment. They haven't changed, and they're still in charge of politics. And so that could be another reason why there's no defund the police movement in Lowell, is because people don't want to waste their time. But there's a lot of organizing needs to be done. That's all. We still got a long ways to go.
Yeah. Yeah, at the parade yesterday, the mayor was there, John Drinkwater was there, and Sokari Chow was there, and they spoke about that this was, the start of a movement. And they wanted justice, equity, and inclusion, and everybody was, saying all the right things, but I think they, the organizers basically walked away with it's not enough to say this. We need to see what the action is, and there was a commitment to action, but it didn't feel like it went beyond words. So it's going to be interesting to see how this ends up playing out. And I think that, we need to be more proactive. So.
I do gotta go, but I have one petition that was sent to me and with a request to share. So I'm just gonna put that in the chat before I go. And I think it is relevant to the current conversation on.
All right. So was that it?
We're dwindling, so it better be it.
Right. Yep. Looks like that is it.
After 7.
All right. Anybody want to help us with reminder calls?
Luz already said she would, so I think I can go back to the same group as this month, and we should be good.
Okay.
Cool.
Excellent. All right. Check out the website. Join our Facebook page. Join the Facebook group. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, y'all.